Contarte Historias presents Sherlock, Lupin and Me. The Dark Lady by Irene Adler. Illustrations inspired by the work of Henry Toulouse-Lautrec. Chapter 18. Night Walk. I didn't immediately understand what they were. Pebbles. They were pebbles thrown against my window pane. I thought it was one of those little inexplicable noises you hear at night in old houses, but they were pebbles thrown at the window. I ran to open it. "What's going on?" I asked quietly. I had the impression of speaking to him at night. It was an unusually clear night. The last one is a full moon. "Irene?" Someone said from the garden, silvery in the moonlight. "It's me." "Lupin?" "What's wrong?" "Spirou, he's moved." Spirou, of course. The kitchen assistant at the Hotel des Artistes. It was hard for me to understand, maybe because I wasn't quite awake yet. Thoughts were lazily evolving in my head. "I'll come down at once," I said to Lupin. I groped my way to the bathroom, looking for the same dress I had worn in the afternoon. I heard murmurs in the ivy on the wall of the house, and when I turned I saw the Lupin silhouetted against the sky. "Lupin!" I almost screamed, and hid behind the door. "For heaven's sake, what are you doing here?" He threw me a bundle of clothes that rolled on the floor. "You'd better wear this," he said, and disappeared the same way he had appeared. I closed my eyes and I wanted to laugh. What could he expect, after having met his father perched on the branches of a banana tree? The clothes he had left me were those of a boy, a pair of corduroy pants, a boy's blouse, a cap, and a pair of tattered shoes. I smelled them, though they were little more than tatters, they smelled clean. I dressed in all that as fast as I could, then went to the door to listen. In the house, it seemed that no one had noticed anything. Not a sound, apart from Mr. Nelson's slow, rhythmic snoring. "Lupin," I said, leaning out of the window. I tried to figure out a way to get down from there. I took a deep breath. "Go ahead, Irene," I whispered to myself. Then I climbed up on the windowsill and looked for a handhold, for which I put my hand in the ivy. Luckily, it wasn't hard to find one. I opened the window, and, clinging to the sturdier trunk of the ivy, began to descend. It wasn't as easy as I imagined. In the dark, it was practically impossible to distinguish the supports, and the ivy leaves reflected the moonlight like the scales of a large fish. Anyway, I managed to get down to the grass. I skinned my hand and knee, but gritted my teeth so I wouldn't look like a winner. "Lupin is appear for me past the rose bush." I recognized his bright eyes in the darkness. "Let's go. Sherlock is waiting for us at the port," he said, crossing the gate. He, too, had disguised himself and wore casual clothes that were decidedly smellier than mine, an old sea dog's soft hat, and a long false beard that gave him an oriental look. I went after him without saying a word. The shoes he had looked for were terribly tight, and the boy's blouse hindered my movements. "We go down to the port and then turn towards the bastions." "I should be here," Lupin murmured, hiding in the shadows. But Sherlock wasn't there. At the scheduled point of the rendezvous we do not find Sherlock, but a Jewess, which, because of its white color, glistened under the moon. "He's had to go," I sensed, picking her up. And it didn't take me long to find a second bean 3 steps later. I picked it up and showed it to Lupin. "That's his way of telling us. Spirou must have moved again," he said. We followed the beans on the grounds if they were Tom Thumb's crumbs, and soon found ourselves skirting the bastions of the wall and passing under the great city gate, and from there we entered the old city again. We walked close to the walls, trying to avoid the few passers-by. The steps of the church seemed to be made of ivory and silver, and the steeple cast a shadow over the old square like a gigantic spear. We keep walking, ourselves like two shadows. We descended a steep and unregulated staircase and turned down an alley to the left, and then passed through a gloomy row of rampant arches that looked like the ribs of a gigantic skeleton. Suddenly, a hand came out of the shadow of a side alley and grabbed Lupin by the neck. Immediately I saw the long black barrel of a carabiner peep out from under my friend's blouse, and an instant later the gun was pointed at Sherlock's throat. "You gave me a good scare," Lupin apologized, tucking the gun under his clothes. "You could hear him coming 100 paces away," Sherlock complained, loosening our friend's neck. He took a long look at me. "It looks good on you," he said, referring to my clothes. "And your mustache," I replied, squeezing myself in the shadows of the alley, between the two of us. "Have I really seen what I've seen?" "What did you see?" Sherlock asked. "No games with me, boys," I murmured coldly. "Do you have a gun, Lupin?" "It's my father's," he answered. "It's part of his stage tricks. No gunpowder, but it looks authentic." He handed it to me. "See? It only serves to frighten." It was heavy, with an ebony but ornamented with mother-of-pearl fleurs de lis. It looked more like a bulky piece of jewel than a weapon capable of killing someone. "Scare who, guys?" I asked as I handed it back to her. "We don't know that yet," Sherlock replied, and then motioned for us to follow him. What did you think of this Sherlock, Lupin and Irene Adler audiobook? Did you like the ending? Who was your favorite character? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to our channel to not miss the next chapter.